Aisha Thompson had always been told she flew like the sky was her second home, but on that frigid December morning at Meridian Airlines headquarters, her wings were clipped by 7 words that sparked a firestorm. "Captain Thompson, please wait outside." She never imagined those words would ignite a chain reaction, toppling one of America's oldest airlines, not from a crash in the skies, but from the crushing weight of its own corruption. The morning fog clung to the tarmac of O'Hare International Airport as Aisha, 37, strode through the bustling terminal, her polished captain's uniform gleaming with 4 gold stripes on each sleeve. With over 15,000 flight hours across every continent except Antarctica, she carried the quiet confidence of a seasoned pilot. Her pilot's case rolled smoothly behind her as she checked her watch, 5:17 a.m. The briefing for Flight MA-27 to San Francisco was set for 5:30, leaving just enough time to grab coffee from the crew lounge. Today marked her first day as senior captain at Meridian Airlines, a prestigious carrier with a storied legacy, but an uneasy tension gnawed at her, as if the air whispered trouble. The crew lounge door swung open, releasing the rich aroma of coffee and the hum of early morning chatter. Pilots and flight attendants huddled over flight plans or scrolled through phones, but as Aisha entered, the room shifted, conversations paused, eyes flicked her way. As one of the rare black women in commercial aviation, less than 1% of pilots, by industry stats, she was used to being a curiosity. "You must be Captain Thompson," a voice called. She turned to see Captain Richard Grayson, a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and matching gold stripes. "Welcome to Meridian," he said, extending a hand with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Thank you, Captain Grayson," Aisha replied, her grip firm. "It's an honor." "Call me Richard," he corrected, his tone clipped. "I'll be your check captain for the next few weeks." "You've reviewed the San Francisco airport flight path?" "Yes, Richard," Aisha said smoothly. "I've memorized Meridian's approach procedures and studied the weather. Expecting turbulence over the Rockies, but nothing unusual." He nodded, his face unreadable. "Good. Briefing room C, 5 minutes." As he walked away, a knot tightened in Aisha's stomach. She'd spent her career reading people, crucial when lives depended on split-second trust in the cockpit, and something about Richard's demeanor screamed trouble. Men like him, she'd learned, often smiled while plotting your downfall. Pouring coffee with a splash of cream, Aisha caught her reflection in the coffee machine's polished surface. Her father's words echoed, "You'll have to be twice as good to get half as far." She'd lived by them, graduating top of her Air Force Academy class, flying military transports through 3 tours in Afghanistan, and transitioning to commercial aviation with a flawless record. The briefing room buzzed as Aisha entered. 6 flight attendants and her co-pilot, First Officer Liam Chen, a young Asian American with 5 years of experience, stood to greet her. "Captain Thompson," Liam said, his smile genuine. "Heard great things. Excited to fly with you." Before Aisha could respond, Executive Operations Director Thomas Hargrove stormed in, followed by Richard. Hargrove, a tall man with a perpetual scowl, cleared his throat, avoiding Aisha's gaze. "Change of plans," he announced. "Captain Grayson will take Flight 207. Captain Thompson, we need you to wait outside." The room fell silent. Aisha felt every eye on her, heat rising in her chest. "May I ask why?" she said, her voice steady despite the sting. "I was scheduled for this flight weeks ago." Hargrove glanced at Richard. "It's about experience. San Francisco's a tough approach, and you're new to our protocols." "With respect," Aisha cut in, "I've flown into SFO 73 times in the last decade, including in severe weather. My qualifications were vetted during hiring." Hargrove's tone hardened. "This isn't a discussion, Captain. Please wait outside." Aisha considered pushing back, but this wasn't the moment. With a nod, she set down her flight documents and stepped into the hallway, the cold air biting deeper than before. Her mind raced. In 20 years of flying, she'd faced discrimination, passengers demanding a real pilot, colleagues muttering about affirmative action, but this felt deliberate, calculated. 10 minutes later, Liam emerged, looking uneasy. "Sorry about that, Captain," he whispered. "For what it's worth, I think it's nonsense." "What did they say after I left?" Aisha asked. Liam hesitated, glancing down the hall. "They called it standard procedure for new captains, but I've been here 3 years. I've seen 4 new captains start. None got pulled from their first flight." Aisha's chest tightened. "There's more, isn't there?" Liam leaned closer. "I'm assigned to Grayson now, but they want you to shadow Flight 422 to Seattle. Short hop, to acclimate you." He made air quotes. "And it's with Harold Kessler." The name hit like a thunderclap. Harold Kessler, Meridian's most senior captain, was notorious for opposing diversity in the cockpit. Aisha had never met him, but his reputation was a dark cloud. "I see," she said quietly. "Captain," Liam corrected himself, "if you want to file a complaint, I'll back you." Aisha weighed the offer. A complaint on day 1 would mark her as trouble, no matter how justified. "Let me handle Flight 422 first," she said. "But thanks, Liam." Not everyone would stick their neck out. As he walked away, Aisha's phone buzzed. A text from her sister, Nia, "Knock, am dead, sis." So proud. Pride, anger, and resolve churned within her. She typed back, "All good here. Tell you tonight," and steeled herself. Flight 422 to Seattle was a gauntlet. Captain Harold Kessler, early 60s with thinning gray hair and a scowl carved in stone, barely acknowledged Aisha with a nod before ignoring her through pre-flight checks. First Officer Peter Nguyen, a nervous young man, shot her apologetic glances but stayed silent. From the jump seat, Aisha observed Kessler's meticulous routine, flawless, despite his bigotry. As the Boeing 737 pushed back, Kessler finally spoke, not turning, "I don't know where you came from, Captain Thompson, but at Meridian, we do things by the book. No shortcuts." The accusation stung, but Aisha kept her voice neutral. "Understood, Captain. Standardization is safety." Kessler grunted, disappointed she didn't bite. The 2-hour flight was a masterclass in condescension, Kessler narrating every action as if Aisha were a cadet. She endured it, focusing on Meridian's protocols. But during the Seattle descent, Kessler made a mistake, dialing the wrong frequency for approach control. Nguyen froze, too intimidated to speak. Aisha leaned forward. "Captain, I believe Seattle approach is 128.35 today, not 124.75. The cockpit went silent. Kessler's shoulders stiffened as he checked the chart. "Correct," he said, voice tight, adjusting the radio. "Thank you, Captain Thompson." The grudging acknowledgement was a small victory, but as they taxied to the gate, Kessler turned, his pale blue eyes like ice. "One good catch doesn't make you Meridian material. This airline has standards. Traditions. Traditions evolve, Captain," Aisha replied, her voice steady. "They have to." "Not at Meridian," he snapped. The rest of the day was a blur of slights and hostility. Back in Chicago, Aisha learned she'd shadow different captains all week, all men, all with reputations like Kessler's. The hazing was clear, they wanted her gone. That evening, in her new Chicago apartment, Aisha sipped Cabernet during a video call with Nia. They did what? Nia's lawyer instincts flared. "Aisha, that's textbook discrimination. You could sue them into the ground. And be the black woman who sued her way into the cockpit." Aisha sighed. "I'd lose the crew's trust. So you'll just take it?" Nia pressed. "That's not you." "I'm not taking it," Aisha said, steel in her voice. "I'm fighting differently. This feels systemic. I need to know if it's a few dinosaurs or the whole company." "Be careful," Nia warned. These corporate types protect their own. I know, Aisha said. But I didn't come this far to be pushed out. That night, sleepless, Aisha dug into Meridian's history. Founded in 1967, it had grown from a regional carrier to a national player with international routes. Its safety record was solid, its leadership overwhelmingly white and male. Employee reviews painted a stark picture, glowing praise from white men, tepid ratings from women and minorities citing an old boys network. 3 discrimination lawsuits in a decade, all settled with NDAs, raised red flags. Then, an article from 8 months ago, Meridian Airlines faces FAA scrutiny over maintenance logs. The FAA was reviewing minor discrepancies in documentation. Aisha bookmarked it. With Meridian's recent international expansion, were maintenance teams cutting corners under pressure? The next morning, shadowing Captain Andrew Larson to Denver, Aisha found an ally. Mid-flight, Larson, cordial but guarded, leaned over. "Not all of us agree with how you're being treated," he said quietly. "Then why not speak up?" Aisha asked. Larson looked uneasy. "It's complicated. Meridian's traditional." "That word covers a lot," Aisha noted. "Watch yourself around Hargrove and Kessler," Larson whispered. "They're tight, 30 years. Hargrove shields Kessler's circle, no matter what." "No matter what?" Aisha pressed. "Even safety risks?" Larson's eyes flickered with unease. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to," Aisha replied. He stiffened. "I've said too much. Just keep your eyes open." The warning lingered. Between flights, Aisha visited the maintenance hangar, introducing herself to the crew. Most were polite but guarded, except Marcus Reed, a black technician from Detroit. After bonding over shared routes, he hinted at trouble. "New management's pushing us to speed up," he said, glancing around. "More flights, less time to check the birds." Aisha's instincts flared. Was Meridian's tradition hiding something darker, something that could bring the airline crashing down? She wasn't just fighting for her place in the cockpit anymore. She was fighting for the truth. The maintenance hangar's dim lights cast long shadows as Marcus Reed, his voice low, revealed the chilling truth to Aisha. "They're cutting turnaround time. Some checks that used to be mandatory are now at the technician's discretion." Aisha felt a chill. "Is that legal?" she asked. Marcus grimaced. "Gray area. They've got fancy lawyers who word things to sound kosher, but between us, I wouldn't put my family on some of these planes." Before Aisha could press further, a supervisor appeared, eyeing their conversation suspiciously. Marcus quickly returned to his work, and Aisha thanked him before slipping away, her mind racing with the implications. Over the next 2 weeks, Aisha endured relentless humiliation, treated like a novice despite her 15,000 flight hours. Assigned to the least desirable routes, given minimal rest between flights, and subjected to excessive scrutiny, she persisted, cataloging every slight, every deviation from protocol, every hint of something sinister beneath Meridian's polished facade. She quietly built alliances, Liam Chen, her supportive co-pilot, Lauren Kim, a flight attendant who'd faced the company's toxic culture, and Marcus, who shared more troubling details about maintenance shortcuts. Aisha was careful, never voicing her suspicions outright but signaling her commitment to truth and safety. 3 weeks into her tenure, Aisha was finally assigned to captain a red-eye flight from Chicago to Las Vegas, a grueling route with rowdy passengers. Liam, assigned as her first officer, gave her a knowing look. She suspected the company wanted her to fail with a friendly witness. During the pre-flight inspection, Aisha's instincts flared. The maintenance log showed discrepancies in routine check dates. When she questioned the ground crew, they brushed it off, claiming everything was within parameters. Unconvinced, Aisha insisted on a thorough inspection, delaying the flight by 20 minutes, a cardinal sin in the airline's on-time obsession. "Are you sure that's necessary, Captain?" Liam asked nervously as she checked the systems. Better 20 minutes late than not arriving at all, Aisha replied. Something's off in these logs. She cleared the aircraft but filed a detailed report noting her concerns. The flight went smoothly, but the next morning, she was summoned to Thomas Hargrove's office. Hargrove wasted no time. Captain Thompson, you delayed Flight 889 last night with an unnecessary inspection. Aisha met his gaze. The maintenance logs showed inconsistencies that warranted examination. Our ground crew cleared that aircraft, Hargrove snapped. You overruled them based on what? A feeling? Based on my 20 years of experience and FAA regulations requiring accurate documentation, Aisha countered. The intake valve inspection dates didn't align. Hargrove's expression darkened. At Meridian, we value efficiency alongside safety. Delays cost thousands. If you can't trust our procedures, perhaps this isn't the place for you. The threat hung heavy. Aisha saw the trap, back down or risk her job. Mr. Hargrove, she said carefully, are you suggesting I overlook discrepancies in maintenance logs? His face flushed. I'm suggesting you trust our experienced maintenance teams. Would you put that directive in writing? Aisha asked. That won't be necessary, Hargrove barked. Use better judgment. I always do, Aisha replied, rising. Safety is my primary judgment call. As she left, she knew she'd crossed a line. Hargrove wouldn't forgive the challenge. That night, in her Chicago apartment, Aisha spread out her notes, a web of inconsistencies, warning signs, and policy violations painting a disturbing picture. Meridian was systematically cutting corners on maintenance, pressuring employees to ignore issues, and punishing those who spoke up. She knew what she had to do, but the cost would be steep. Her career, built over decades, might never recover. Whistleblowers rarely found work in the tight-knit aviation industry. Yet her father's words echoed, flying's a sacred trust. People put their lives in your hands. Aisha dialed her sister, Nia. It's me, she said. I need your help and your FAA contact. A pause. You're sure? Nia asked. Aisha glanced at her evidence. I've never been sure. Okay, Nia said. Tell me everything. The next morning, Aisha prepared for her Boston flight with a strange calm. She and Nia had spent hours outlining her findings, cross-referencing regulations, and preparing documentation. At 3 a.m., after Nia crashed on her couch, Aisha sat alone, contemplating the path ahead. Before heading to O'Hare, she made 2 calls, one to Nia's FAA contact, arranging a meeting, and another to a Chicago Tribune journalist specializing in corporate accountability. Seeds planted, she headed to the airport, the weight of her decision settling on her shoulders. The Boston flight briefing was tense. Word of her clash with Hargrove had spread. Some crew avoided her eyes, others watched with curiosity or respect. Liam, her first officer again, gave a subtle nod. As Aisha reviewed the flight plan, Richard Grayson entered. Captain Thompson, he announced, I'm taking command of this flight. On whose authority? Aisha asked. Executive Operations, Grayson replied, smirking. They feel a more experienced captain is needed for today's weather. The forecast showed clear skies to Boston. I see, Aisha said evenly. And my duties? Administrative tasks. Report to HR when we return. The public humiliation was deliberate, a message to all. Aisha saw Liam's discomfort, the pity and fear in the crew's eyes. She gathered her things. Very well. Good flight, everyone. In the hallway, Lauren Kim caught up. This isn't right, she whispered. What they're doing to you. It's okay, Aisha said. Some battles aren't fought in the open. Lauren hesitated, then pulled out her phone. I have photos from Flight 336 to Toronto last month. Cabin pressure valve had a crack, failed visual inspection. They cleared it anyway to avoid crew rest requirements. Aisha's heart raced. "Lauren, that's serious." "I know," Lauren said. "I've been keeping records, but I was afraid." She glanced over her shoulder. "I could lose everything." "You still could," Aisha warned. "Are you sure?" Lauren nodded. "What's the point of a career if people could die because I stayed silent?" Aisha scribbled an email address. "Send everything here. It's secure. And Lauren, thank you." At HR, Aisha was placed on administrative review for her compatibility with company culture. Her ID badge was swapped for a restricted one, limiting her access. She complied, knowing appearances mattered. Her phone buzzed with messages, Liam offering support, Marcus requesting a meeting, and Peter Nguyen, Kessler's first officer, writing, "Not all of us are like them. Some remember why we became pilots." At 4:30, Aisha met Marcus at a hangar side entrance. "I shouldn't be doing this," he said, letting her in. In a quiet corner, he dropped a bombshell, "They're falsifying records, not just fudging dates, actual structural issues downgraded or ignored." "How widespread?" Aisha asked. "At least 30% of the fleet has issues that should ground them," Marcus said. "When someone refuses to sign off, they disappear, transferred, fired, or worse." "Worse?" Aisha pressed. Marcus's voice dropped. "Paul Decker, best mechanic I knew, raised concerns about 787 engine mounts last year. 3 weeks later, he fell from a platform, broken back, career over. Company called it negligence, didn't pay his medical." Aisha's suspicions hardened. "Would you go on record?" Fear flashed in Marcus's eyes. "I've got 3 kids, Captain. This job's all I have." "I understand," Aisha said. "If a plane goes down because of this." Marcus's expression darkened. "That's why I'm talking. But I can't be the face." "You don't have to be," Aisha assured. He handed her a USB drive. "Flight logs, maintenance records, memos. Be careful." That night, Aisha reviewed Marcus's files, Lauren's photos, and other employees' tips. The pattern was undeniable. Meridian compromised safety for profit, silenced dissenters, and retaliated harshly. At midnight, she called Nia. "We have enough," Aisha said. "More than enough." "Send it," Nia replied. "I'll review and update the FAA contact." "Anything else?" "Look into Paul Decker's accident," Aisha said. "Workplace injury, about a year ago." "You think it wasn't an accident?" "I think nothing at Meridian is." The next morning, Aisha reported for administrative duties, her calm masking the storm within. She noticed heightened scrutiny, security guards trailing her, IT checking her computer, executives eyeing her suspiciously. They sensed something coming but didn't know what. At 2 p.m., Aisha was summoned to the executive conference room. Inside were Hargrove, Grayson, Kessler, and 2 legal counsels. Hargrove didn't offer a seat. "Captain Thompson," he began, "you've been accessing restricted areas and soliciting information beyond your clearance." Aisha stayed silent. "You've also collected internal documents and contacted outside entities, violating your confidentiality agreement," Hargrove continued. "Do you have anything to say?" "Am I being fired?" Aisha asked. A lawyer interjected smoothly, "We're offering you a chance to resign with a generous severance, provided you sign an NDA." Aisha smiled faintly. "And if I decline?" "You'll be terminated for cause," Hargrove snapped. "Your pilot's record will show insubordination, failure to follow procedures, and creating a hostile work environment. Good luck flying again." Aisha nodded, then placed a folder on the table. "Before I respond," she said calmly, "you should know that at 9 a.m., my attorney submitted a report to the FAA detailing Meridian's systematic safety violations, falsified maintenance records, planes flying with known defects, and employee testimony about pressure to ignore issues. The room went silent, lawyers exchanging alarmed glances. At noon, Aisha continued, the Chicago Tribune received similar documentation, including evidence of retaliation against whistleblowers. They're particularly interested in Paul Decker's accident. Hargrove's face paled. You're bluffing. A third copy is in secure storage, Aisha said, meeting each man's eyes, set for release to every major news outlet and aviation authority worldwide if anything happens to me or my sources. So, no, Mr. Hargrove, I won't resign or sign your NDA. Kessler slammed his fist on the table, his face red with fury. This is blackmail. No, Captain Kessler, Aisha corrected, her voice calm but unyielding, this is accountability. One of the lawyers whispered urgently to Hargrove, whose panicked expression betrayed the unraveling of his composure. What do you want? Hargrove finally asked, his voice hoarse. Aisha's gaze was steady. Ground every aircraft with maintenance discrepancies immediately. Conduct a full safety audit by an independent third party. And provide written assurance that no employee who cooperated with my investigation will face retaliation. Those are my non-negotiable terms. Kessler scoffed. That would bankrupt the company. Aisha raised an eyebrow. As opposed to what happens when the FAA revokes your operating certificate? Or when families learn you knowingly flew unsafe planes? The second lawyer pulled Hargrove aside for a hushed, tense exchange. After agonizing minutes, Hargrove returned, defeat etched in his posture. We'll need time to, you have 1 hour, Aisha interrupted. After that, I call my contacts and tell them to proceed with full public disclosure. The next few days unfolded like a slow-motion collapse. Meridian announced an emergency maintenance review, grounding nearly 40% of its fleet. Flights were cancelled, passengers stranded, and the company's stock plummeted. The FAA launched a formal investigation, sending inspectors to scour maintenance records and aircraft. Aisha found herself at the center of a storm as the Chicago Tribune's exposé detonated, followed by national news coverage. Former employees came forward, their stories painting a damning portrait of an airline that had sacrificed safety for profit. Hargrove, Grayson, and Kessler were placed on administrative leave pending the investigation. The board, desperate to salvage Meridian's reputation, issued statements promising cooperation and reform. 6 weeks later, Aisha sat in a small cafe across from Meridian's headquarters, watching workers remove the airline's iconic logo from the building's facade. The company had filed for bankruptcy protection after the FAA revoked its operating certificate, citing willful and systemic disregard for safety protocols. Liam slid into the seat across from her, looking exhausted yet energized. It's official, he said. Atlantic Airways is buying Meridian's assets and offering jobs to all certified staff, except the executives under investigation. And you? Aisha asked. Senior First Officer Track, Liam confirmed, smiling. You? Aisha sipped her coffee. I'm considering my options. In truth, 3 airlines had offered her positions, eager to showcase their commitment to safety and diversity by hiring the whistleblower who brought down Meridian. She'd also been approached about consulting roles with aviation safety organizations and a book deal. Whatever you decide, Liam said, you change things, not just at Meridian. The whole industry's doing audits now, scared they'll be next. Aisha thought of the cost, the stress, the fear, the sleepless nights questioning her choice. She thought of Marcus, now Atlantic's head of maintenance quality control, and Lauren, training as a safety officer, and all the employees who'd risked everything. We all changed things, she corrected gently. Together. As they watched Meridian's dismantling, Aisha's phone rang. It was Nia. Have you seen the news? Her sister asked. About the Atlantic purchase? Liam told me. No, about Hargrove and the others. The Justice Department just announced criminal charges, reckless endangerment, fraud, obstruction of justice. They're facing prison time. Aisha closed her eyes, a complex emotion washing over her, not satisfaction, but completion. Justice served. There's more, Nia added. The FAA's creating a new aviation safety oversight committee. They want you on it. Aisha watched the last piece of Meridian's logo come down, leaving a ghostly outline on the wall. Tell them I'll consider it, she said. 3 months later, Captain Aisha Thompson guided a Boeing 787 Dreamliner into the skies above Chicago, her 4 gold stripes catching the morning sunlight. Atlantic Airways Flight 207 to San Francisco climbed smoothly through scattered clouds, carrying 243 passengers who trusted her hands. In the first officer's seat, Tasha Williams, a young black woman, monitored the instruments with precision. Beautiful day for flying, Aisha commented at cruising altitude. Perfect, Tasha agreed, then hesitated. Captain, what you did at Meridian, it's why I kept pursuing aviation when everyone told me to quit. Aisha smiled, remembering her own battles. The sky belongs to all of us, First Officer Williams. Never forget that. As they soared, Aisha reflected on those 7 words, Captain Thompson, please wait outside, and how they'd sparked a revolution. Sometimes, the greatest journeys begin with a closed door. That evening, in Atlantic's Operations Center, Aisha noticed a framed quote on the wall, new since her last rotation. It was from her congressional testimony, when asked why she risked everything to expose Meridian. In aviation, the truth isn't just a virtue, it's a necessity. The sky forgives many things, but never lies. Her voice had trembled that day, but her conviction held firm. Facing powerful men who'd never known her barriers, she'd found a strength she hadn't known she possessed, not just to speak truth, but to see battles beyond personal gain. The industry was changing, slowly, with resistance from those clinging to old traditions. Atlantic had adopted blind hiring, focusing on qualifications, not names. They'd revamped whistleblower protections and created an independent safety council with real authority. Other airlines followed, recognizing diversity as a safety asset, different perspectives spotting different risks. Aisha's phone buzzed with a message from Nia, dinner tomorrow. Big news. She typed back, your place. I'll bring wine. Watching ground crews prepare aircraft with meticulous care, no corners cut, she felt a new meaning in each takeoff, a moral victory of integrity over expediency. Atlantic's chief pilot, Sarah Chen, approached. The Academy of Aviation Safety wants you to speak at their conference, changing corporate culture from within. Aisha laughed softly. I didn't exactly work within the system. Sometimes breaking it is what rebuilds it right. Will you consider it? Sarah asked. Aisha glanced at the night sky, a plane's lights fading into the stars. Yes, I will. In the years that followed, Aisha became a beacon, not just for her cockpit skill, but for her advocacy for safety and equality. She mentored young pilots from underrepresented backgrounds, testified for stronger whistleblower protections, and joined Atlantic's executive team as the first black woman president of operational safety at a major airline. An industry magazine, once dismissive, featured her on its cover, the pilot who changed aviation. She kept the issue, not for vanity, but as a reminder for days when progress felt slow, when old biases resurfaced, when good enough tempted compromise. She remembered standing in that hallway, told to wait while others decided her fate. She never waited again, and taught others not to. On the 5th anniversary of Meridian's collapse, an email arrived from Richard Grayson. Captain Thompson, you may be surprised to hear from me. After reflection during my community service sentence, I recognize the harm my actions caused. Your courage forced me to face truths I'd avoided. The aviation world is better because you refuse to be silenced. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Aisha sat with the message, emotions swirling, not just for the apology, both insufficient and significant, but for what it meant, even the most resistant could change. She thought of her father, gone 2 years, proud of her vindication, of Tasha, now a captain mentoring others, of countless safe landings because courage had prevailed. She typed, "Apology accepted, Captain Grayson. The sky belongs to all of us." As she sent it, Aisha felt a continuation, not an end. Meridian's fall was now a case study in ethics and safety manuals, but her story unfolded, flight by flight, truth by truth. The industry, like society, remained imperfect, grappling with biases and competing priorities. But change had taken root, growing through cracks in old systems. Somewhere over America, Captain Aisha Thompson guided her aircraft through the boundless sky, which cared not for the color of her hands, only the competence, courage, and integrity of the pilot navigating its endless frontier. The horizon stretched open with possibility. Aisha smiled and flew on.